When my mother-in-law stormed into my house and announced that her precious son would be moving in, she had no idea what kind of surprise I had in store for her. What happened next left her white as a ghost, fleeing the house with the door slamming behind her. My name is Christina, and I want to share a story about how my toxic mother-in-law tried to kick me out of my own home. Trust me, the ending will blow your mind. Picture this, a sunny July morning in suburban Atlanta, the temperature already pushing 90, with air conditioners humming at full blast. I just gotten back from Target with another load of moving boxes for our dream home. I was wearing my favorite Taylor summer dress, white with blue flowers, the one my husband loves. Hair up in a high ponytail, light makeup, I was feeling happy and full of energy. Our new home is a 3-story colonial mansion with white columns, a wide veranda, and a red-tiled roof. A perfect green lawn watered by an automatic sprinkler system, a 2-car garage, and best of all, huge windows flooding the place with sunlight all day long. It's the kind of house I'd dreamed of since I was a kid, back when my parents and I lived in a cramped apartment in Decatur. The foyer greeted me with cool air from the AC and the scent of fresh paint. Marble floors with underfloor heating, a built-in security system, and a Waterford crystal chandelier that Jacob and I spent 3 months picking out. Our wedding photos already hung on the walls, us, so young and happy, completely unaware of the chaos we'd soon face. My husband Jacob was away in New York for an IT conference, showcasing his company's new cybersecurity system, so I was handling the move single-handedly. Honestly, I kind of liked it. It meant I could arrange everything exactly how I wanted, without any practical male input. I just kicked off my favorite Michaels sandals, beige, low-heeled, comfy enough to wear all day, and picked up a box of books when the front door flew open with a bang. No doorbell, no knock, just bam, and in marched my mother-in-law, Barbara Williams. Picture a 58-year-old woman who looks like she stepped out of Southern living. Gray hair perfectly styled by the best salon in, a pricey teal Talbot suit, pearl earrings inherited from her grandmother, and that distinct upper-middle-class stare that screams, "I'm in charge and everyone better know it." Trailing behind her was her younger son, my brother-in-law, 29 going on 16, still clueless about life. Tall, lanky, with perpetually messy hair and a guilty puppy dog look. He wore a wrinkled band tee from some indie group and ripped jeans. Next came his wife, a 25-year-old with lash extensions, stiletto nails, and an obsession with snapping Instagram pics. She was in leggings and a crop top better suited for the gym than a family visit. And of course their 2 kids, Mason, 7 and 5, who immediately turned my house into a playground, touching everything with sticky candy-coated fingers. Barbara was holding the spare key to our house, the one I'd given her a month ago for emergencies only, with clear instructions. Only if something happens and we're not home. "Don't unpack, darling," she declared, surveying my spacious foyer with a judgmental eye. Her voice dripped with smugness like she'd just won a mayoral election. "And the kids are moving in here." She paused for dramatic effect, clearly savoring the moment, before adding, "And you, sweetie, need to understand one simple thing." Another pause, her eyes glaring down at me. "This house isn't yours." I froze halfway to the built-in mahogany bookshelf, clutching a box of my favorite books. Everything from Jane classics to thrillers, books I'd collected over years, books that were part of me. Slowly, very slowly, I set the box on our brand-new restoration hardware coffee table and turned to face her. My heart was pounding, my mouth dry, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Excuse me," I said as if I'd misheard. My voice carried a hint of disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious, honey," Barbara replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She strutted deeper into the house like she owned it, pausing to appraise the expensive furniture and decor. "And the kids deserve space," she continued, running a hand over the fake flowers on the console table. "They can't keep squeezing into my 2-bedroom condo in. The kids are growing, they need room to play." She stopped by a photo of Jacob on the fireplace, one where he's in a suit, accepting an Employee of the Year award at his IT company. "And you," she looked at me with barely concealed disdain. "Well, let's just say you're not exactly family. You're young, energetic, you can make your own way. Look at Jacob climbing that corporate ladder." A chill ran down my spine, and a tight knot of anger formed in my stomach. Meanwhile, was already poking around our kitchen, with its black granite island, Viking stainless steel appliances, and wine cooler. "Wow, what an amazing kitchen," she gushed, snapping a selfie in front of the massive fridge. We could throw such epic parties here. Stayed quiet, but I saw his eyes light up when he spotted our game room with the 75-inch TV and PlayStation 5. The kids were tearing through the living room, leaving smudges on the white rug and grabbing anything within reach. "Mom, look at this huge staircase," Mason shouted, scrambling up to the second floor. "Don't touch that," I snapped as the 5-year-old reached for a crystal vase. "So, and are going to pay the mortgage on this house?" I asked, barely keeping my voice steady. Barbara's face twitched. She clearly thought the house was paid for in cash, and my mention of a mortgage was the first crack in her perfect plan. "Well," she faltered, scrambling for an answer, "we'll figure something out. The important thing is to get everything organized. I'll help them." Her voice wavered, but she clung to her authoritative tone. "We're a close-knit family. We always support each other." Was always her golden boy. Everyone in the family knew it. Unlike Jacob, who worked at McDonald's at 16, then Best Buy, paid his way through Georgia Tech and built a career from scratch, had lived off his mom's dime his whole life. At 29, he still showed up at her place for groceries, begged for gas money, and couldn't cover his utility bills. He'd bounced from job to job, DoorDash driver, barista, Guitar Center salesman, never lasting more than 6 months anywhere. "I see," I said, feeling rage bubble up inside me. "There's just one tiny problem you might not know about." I stood tall and looked Barbara straight in the eyes. "You'll need to repay my dad the down payment he made on this house. Think your precious has that kind of cash lying around? Unless he's planning to sell a kidney on the black market or send to work on some Alabama plantation." Barbara practically jumped at my sharp tone. Her eyes widened, her mouth falling open. Wait, she stammered, sounding like someone who just realized they boarded the wrong train. "What down payment?" "The one my dad paid, 150000, I said calmly, my voice laced with steel. "It was his gift to me for our second anniversary with Jacob. He said, 'I want my daughter to live in a real home, not rent apartments forever.' And trust me, Barbara, my dad is very particular about his investments." I paused, relishing the horror on her face. "He's not the type to write off $1.5 million. He'll sue you himself if he finds out someone else is living in the house he helped buy for his daughter. Do you really want that?" I walked to the window and pointed at our pristine backyard. "Or did you think this house fell from the sky? That the smart home system controlling the lights, temperature, and security was free? That the heated pool and hot tub just appeared by magic?" Stop. Barbara collapsed onto my expensive Pottery Barn beige sofa, the one Jacob and I spent 3 weekends choosing. I could see the gears in her head grinding to a halt. Her plan was crumbling and she was starting to realize it. But the house is in Jacob's name," she exclaimed, clinging to a last shred of hope. "Bingo," I smirked, clapping my hands. "It's in both our names, joint marital property." Barbara's face turned even paler. "And while you're busy making plans to take over," I continued, packing the living room, "Jacob, by the way, already signed a notarized agreement that in case of a divorce, all jointly owned property goes to me." I stopped and glanced at the family photo on the fireplace. Because he's an honest man, or at least he was after that memorable night a year and a half ago. I didn't want to relive that awful night when I surprised Jacob after his work party and found him drunk, wrapped around some silicone-enhanced from marketing. I remembered my knees buckling, the world crashing down in an instant, his slurred apologies, his tears, his promises it meant nothing, and the terms he agreed to sign to keep me from filing for divorce that week. "So what?" Barbara gasped, breathing like an asthmatic after a marathon. You're kicking us out." "Not right this second," I said, feigning shock and throwing up my hands. "You're welcome to stay for dinner, or even breakfast if you cook it yourselves. There's leftover Domino's pizza and a couple of Coronas in the fridge." Who'd been distracted snapping kitchen pics looked up. "Wait, so we're not moving in?" But I already told my mom and I posted in my Facebook group. "Oh really?" Barbara snapped, now red with fury. "Then let Jacob tell me himself everything you just said. Where is he?" "He's at Jackson Airport, flight to New York at 3:30, I replied, glancing at my Apple Watch. "Probably going through security right now." "Without you, huh?" Barbara sneered, her voice dripping with venom. "Why not?" I shrugged. "I'm not big on cities. It's like living in a museum. Everything's pretty, but you can't touch anything. and the constant noise, cars, sirens, construction, it gives me a headache. I walked to the French doors overlooking the garden. Plus, I had to stay here. Moving's no joke. Boxes to unpack, furniture to arrange, a home to make cozy. I gave Barbara a look like a five-star hotel concierge sizing up an underdressed guest. Though, judging by this, cozy's not happening anytime soon. You weren't always this brazen, Barbara muttered, clearly thrown by my newfound backbone. Of course not, I laughed, but there was no warmth in it. I used to be the quiet, meek housewife who apologized for buying milk without asking and needed permission to meet friends. I paced the room, feeling a strength I'd kept locked away for too long, but after 2.5 years married to your son, that sweet little trait just vanished. Probably around the same time, he borrowed $30,000 from my parents for his brilliant crypto mining venture. Barbara's eyebrows shot up. What venture? Oh, you didn't know, I said, feigning surprise. Your eldest decided he'd become a crypto millionaire a 1.5 years ago, convinced my parents to fund his mining rig, promised to double their money in a year. I walked to the bar and poured myself a glass of water. Instead, he dumped it all into some dog-themed meme coin. You know what a meme coin is, Barbara? It's when grown adults buy virtual coins with animal pictures, hoping to strike it rich. Flushed and stared at the floor. Panic crept into Barbara's eyes, but she still tried to maintain her authority. So what, little girl, you think you're hot stuff now? Think you can boss everyone around? And you don't think you're getting a bit full of yourself? I shot back. You show up with a key I gave you for emergencies, barge into MY house without warning, and declare and are moving in without even asking my opinion. I threw up my hands. Well, fine, let's turn this place into a dorm. Who's next on the guest list? Your sister with her 3 Persian cats, or maybe Mr. from next door with his vintage motorcycle collection? Don't exaggerate, Barbara snapped, but her voice betrayed her growing anxiety. It's just going through a rough patch, temporary financial troubles. Temporary, I scoffed. You've been in a rough patch since the day he was born. I turned to, you raised him this way. Remember when he dropped out of Georgia State University in his junior year because morning econ lectures were too hard? Then he became a DoorDash driver. Stared at the floor, clearly uncomfortable. And then he quit that, I continued mercilessly, because customers were rude and didn't tip. Then Guitar Center, but the boss picked on him. Then, but it was too early. Want me to keep going? He's creative and ambitious, Barbara protested, leaping to her son's defense. He's just finding his calling, unlike some people. That last jab was clearly aimed at me. Thanks for the compliment, I said with a mock bow. Nice to know a marketing manager at a Fortune 500 company doesn't meet your standards for creativity and ambition. Who'd been silent finally spoke up. Look, maybe we can work something out. The house is huge, there's room for everyone. Exactly, Barbara chimed in. See, it's reasonable. You and Jacob can take the upstairs bedroom and we'll settle in down here. Let's get back to the main issue, I interrupted, cutting off their peacemaking attempt. To recap, you want to move and their 2 kids into MY house, either pushing me out or cramming me into a corner. Did I get that right? You don't understand, Barbara started, but I raised a hand for silence. All right, since we're talking fairness, I'll offer a compromise. Barbara tensed like a cat about to pounce. Here's the deal, I said, packing the living room like a lawyer in court. You give Jacob and me your 3-bedroom condo in, you know, the one with the park view, worth about $400,000. Barbara's eyes widened. I'll sell it to cover my dad's down payment, I continued, unfazed. And you, as a loving mother and doting grandma, move in with and, between your $1,800 a month social worker pension, $320 a week unemployment benefits, and part-time salon job, you'll just about scrape by to cover the monthly mortgage. I stopped and locked eyes with Barbara. That's only $4,200 a month, but keep in mind you'll be paying it for 25 years. At the current interest rate, that's roughly $1.2 million in total. Barbara's face turned beet red, her mouth opening soundlessly. I'm sure you can stretch it out on ramen and canned beans from Walmart, I added with an innocent smile. Or here's another option, I said, warming to the moment. We call a notary right now, transfer the house to his name, and he takes over the mortgage. Paled, nervously tugging at his shirt. That means he's on the hook for the remaining $680,000, plus $8,000 a year in property taxes, $400 a month in utilities, electric, gas, water, internet, cable, $200 a month for home insurance, and $150 a month for pool and AC maintenance. I started counting on my fingers. Oh, and let's not forget the $1.5 million debt to my dad. I'm sure he'd be happy to work out monthly interest payments. Clutched her head. You hear this, we can't afford that. And don't forget, I went on, savoring the moment, maintaining a 4,000 square foot house isn't cheap. Cleaning, repairs, AC filter replacements, security system upkeep, lawn care. Barbara looked like she might faint. Give it 2 or 3 years and you'll all be living in a trailer in South Georgia, I concluded with a sugary smile. Unless you turn to something illegal to make ends meet, but that's your call. You heartless snake, Barbara hissed, leaping from the sofa. I thought you were one of us, family. No, Barbara, I said, shaking my head. I'm my own person and my dad's daughter. I'm not here to be a victim of your family's selfishness. I walked to the French doors and pointed at the backyard. So I'm not thrilled about living in a house where my mother-in-law barges in unannounced and says, "Pack your bags, sweetie, because my favorite son and his family are moving in, and you can go live under a bridge for all I care." I turned to her. Do you get it, Barbara? I thought you'd respect me, maybe even be happy that Jacob and I are building a life, buying our dream home, planning for kids, looking to the future. Instead, you waltz in here with, "Don't unpack." But's really struggling, Barbara tried, her voice weaker now. Everyone struggles, I exploded. You think it was easy for us. Jacob worked 60-hour weeks to get promoted. I saved every penny for 3 years, skipping new clothes and dinners out. We earned this house. Barbara shot up from the sofa. I'm telling Jacob, I'll tell him what a rude, selfish woman you've become. Go right ahead, I shrugged. Just know he's well aware that if I file for divorce, he's out of this house, his BMW X5, and my $85,000 a year salary, which, by the way, is more than his programmer paycheck. I walked to the fireplace and touched the family photo. Right now, he lives like a king, comes home to a cooked dinner, clean shirts and pressed suits. I even sort his socks by color. You want him back at your place with your Sunday interrogations about grandkids and your daily oatmeal breakfasts. Barbara went silent, the room filled with a heavy quiet, broken only by the hum of the AC and the distant shrieks of the kids still tearing through the house. Just then the upstairs beeped. It had, as usual, crashed into the master bedroom. I went up, turned it off, and came back down. In my absence, the Williams family had clearly been whispering among themselves. Oh, by the way, I said, as if just remembering, did you know, and we're already planning renovations. They even called contractors for a preliminary inspection. They what? Barbara shrieked, spinning to face her son and daughter-in-law. Oh yeah, I nodded, sent me a $15,000 estimate to turn the outdoor kitchen into a kid's playroom. Gotta hand it to her, she's ambitious. A 3-page business plan with pictures and 3D renderings. I pulled out my phone. Want to see? It even includes a 2-meter deep trampoline pit right in the middle of the lawn. Flushed, I thought. And I pressed on, unrelenting, wanted an $8,000 professional karaoke system by the pool for heartwarming family nights, plus a grill station, a hot tub next to the jacuzzi, and a kids' playground. I pointed out the window at the backyard. See that Japanese garden Jacob and I spent 6 months perfecting, wanted to bulldoze it for a 4-meter-tall inflatable castle with a slide and ball pit. Is that true? Barbara demanded, turning to. Well, the kids need somewhere to play, mumbled. So, Barbara said slowly, giving them this house wasn't even my idea, they're just using me to score free housing. Bingo, I snapped my fingers, you're finally getting it. How could you? Barbara collapsed back onto the sofa, clutching her head. Tried to speak, Mom, we just thought. Shut up, she barked at him, just shut up. I walked over to Barbara, sat on the coffee table and spoke softly, almost kindly. Look, Barbara, I get it, you want to help your younger son, mother's heart and all that, I'm not even against it, but please not at my expense or my family. I took her hand. If they're struggling, let them figure it out. They're in their 30s with 2 kids. It's time they took responsibility for their lives. I didn't buy my dream home to turn it into the Williams family commune. What do we do now? Barbara asked, her voice small. will be mad at me. Will the kids be stuck without a decent home? There's a great option, I said with a smile, standing up. You've got that lake house on lake in North Georgia, cute spot, fresh air, perfect for kids. Barbara frowned, but there aren't any good schools nearby. There's homeschooling, I suggested. It's huge in Georgia, and you could move in with them to help with the kids. It'd give you something meaningful to do. I walked to the bar and poured myself a soda. Plus, you could rent out the condo. $1,500 a month is a nice boost to your pension. But, Barbara started. No buts, I cut her off. It's a fair solution. You help your son without robbing your daughter-in-law. Barbara stood, draping the shawl she'd inexplicably brought in the July heat over her shoulders. I'm still telling Jacob. I'll tell him everything. By all means, I nodded. He'll love your version, and I'll show him texts about tossing our furniture for a cohesive style and her plan to turn my home office into a nursery. I ran a hand over the sofa's soft upholstery. By the way, Jacob loves this sofa. It's where he first realized he didn't marry some docile housewife but a smart woman who can stand up for herself and her interests. Fine, say what you want, Barbara muttered, heading for the door. I'm leaving. Go ahead, I said. Say hi to Mr. Williams for me. I'm going to get back to unpacking. You've distracted me so much, my books are still in boxes. When the door slammed behind Barbara and her entourage, I leaned against it and let out a deep breath. My hands were shaking from adrenaline, my heart racing. I walked to the kitchen, opened the wine cooler, and grabbed the bottle of Chardonnay we'd saved for our housewarming. I poured a full glass and sank into an armchair by the fireplace. The house was finally blissfully quiet, just the soft hum of the AC and the distant buzz of a neighbor's. I pulled out my phone and texted Jacob. Hey honey, how's the conference? All good here. Your mom stopped by. We had a little chat about family matters. Think everyone's clearer on things now. Love you. Half an hour later, Jacob called. Hey, sunshine, just landed at law. How's the move going? Mom called, mumbling something about documents and misunderstandings. Everything's fine, darling, I said, sipping my wine. Just clarified some legal details about homeownership and marital property with your mom. I think she understands our situation much better now. What exactly happened? He asked, wary. I'll tell you when you're back, I said. Don't want to ruin your work trip. Main thing is it's all settled peacefully and fairly. All right, he said. I was worried Mom was meddling with the house setup again. No worries, I laughed. No more meddling. 3 days later, Jacob came home. I greeted him with a candlelit dinner and told him the whole story from start to finish. He listened, shaking his head and sighing. You know, he said finally, I always knew Mom bobbied too much, but this. The important thing is the boundaries are set now, I replied. Everyone's clear. A week later, Barbara texted me on WhatsApp. Christina, can we talk? I've thought about what you said. Maybe you were right about some things. I'd like to discuss how we can help without causing issues for you and Jacob. I showed the message to Jacob. What'll you do? He asked. Meet her, I said, but on equal terms, neutral ground, on. The meeting was surprisingly productive. Barbara apologized for her behavior and admitted she'd been wrong. We agreed she'd help find stable work and see a financial planning counselor, while Jacob and I would host occasional family dinners. By the way, landed a job as a systems admin at a small company and has stuck with it for over a year, a first for him. Opened a small salon. The kids are in a good school. And Jacob and I finally got to set up our home the way we dreamed. Last month, we found out we're expecting our first child. Barbara was thrilled about the grandchild news, and most importantly, she hasn't tried to tell us how to live in our own home since. Sometimes you have to stand your ground firmly, but when people realize they've crossed a line, relationships can actually get better than before. Oh, and I changed the house key. Now it's just me and Jacob who have one, nobody else. What do you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments.